Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm Tanya Granick-Allen. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. That is French for the more things change, the more they remain the same. And that phrase could be used to sum up the Quebec provincial election, which saw Francois Legault, incumbent premier and leader of Coalition Avenir Quebec, or the CAQ, secure a second majority in the provincial election held on October 3rd, 2022. The CAQ won 90 of the 125 seats in the National Assembly, increasing its foothold by 14 seats. So what issues percolated in this election cycle? How did the Liberals and the Conservatives fare in the election? What can we expect out of this government going forward? Well, joining me now is Richard Decarie, former Chief of Staff to a Quebec Premier and President of ConservativeUnion.ca and a business consultant. Richard, thank you so much for joining me today to help unpack what happened in the Quebec election and what we can anticipate going forward. Lots to chat about.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start with the first thing. Was the Legault surprise, the second majority, was it a surprise for you?
No, not at all. I had predicted 95 seats, so 90 was pretty close to what I expected.
Okay, so it seemed across the board that he was going to have a solid foothold. There were no diminishments on any of his issues.
In fact, he didn't finalize most of his engagement in the first election. So predictions, I would say, and because of mainly, even though it happened that way, they still voted for him because of the way he managed the COVID crisis. It's mainly what happens, the same thing that happens in Ontario with the election of the Ford government, even though they were acting towards the population in a very harsh way. And a lot of people were upset about it, but not enough, apparently.
Well, actually, you brought up a very good point, because I think every province we've seen through COVID, we always look with for me, curious anticipation to see, well, how much did the COVID issue play in? How much of it will be a factor in the election outcome? So this is Quebec's first kick at the can since COVID to do a litmus to see where the people stand, to take a poll, if you will, in the best way with an election. So you're right to comment, though, that Quebec, in my opinion, had very harsh restrictions, some of the harshest we've seen. A lot of police in people's homes, a lot of things going on there. The curfew, obviously, was a very big thing. We saw protests in Quebec. That didn't seem to reflect in the polls when the election ballots were counted.
And that's the surprise for most people who were upset about the situation. They thought that new Conservative Party, that is in fact a Libertarian Party, would be there to support them. And I told them that they would be very deceived at the election poll, because most people will vote for stability. They will acknowledge the fact that, it wasn't easy, but we've been over it. We got over it. And thanks for that government who was very strong, because we have to understand that there's no democracy for the past almost 3 years. The governance by decree happened in March 2020, and it's still operative until next December 31st. Wow. So for most people, it was that's enough to kick out this government. And I told them not only they won't be kicked out of their majority government, but they will increase their majority, and that's exactly what happened.
Wow. So I guess some people have a penchant for maybe a bit more of a controlling government and across the country, not just in Quebec.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's part of the game in the sense that they are pushing the envelope very harshly. And because of that, people think, okay, that will be a good way to react, a good reason to react. But we've assessed about 10% of the population that was against the measures. And because of that, we've seen in the results of the election, there was about 500,000 people who voted against the government. And that's not enough to make a major difference, not even to have an elected MP that represented them.
No, it's definitely not enough, but it is, it could be the amount that the Liberal Party received in Quebec, and they won 21 seats with that many votes. But you're right, If it's sprinkled throughout, in a first past the post system, it doesn't matter how many people voted in terms of a popular vote. You have to get past that first post. So clearly in none of the the jurisdictions that was the case. I want to unpack a lot more of the issues that we've seen in the last 4 years in the province of Quebec and if they factored into this election right when we come back from this break.